Welcome to the Slow Train to the Travers. It's a free train ride through the prep races leading up to the Travers Stakes at Saratoga in August. Joining us in this series will be noted handicapping author Mark Cramer. So let's go to that conversation with Mark and a close look at the Haskell Stakes at Monmouth this weekend. Hello, welcome everyone. You have climbed aboard the Slow Train to the Travers. This video series, we're going to look at some of the prep races leading up to the Travers Stakes in August at Saratoga. It's kind of the summertime Kentucky Derby, although the people at Saratoga might not like to be referred to in that manner because it is a great race on its own. Joining us for this series is the renowned handicapping author and all-around creative thinker, Mark Cramer. Most of you know Mark from his handicapping books, Thoroughbred Cycles, Kinky Handicapping, but he's also a very talented novelist. He's written at least 3 novels that I know of: Scared Money, Tropical Downs, and the soon-to-be republished Please Hold All Tickets. So if you haven't read any of Mark's work, any of those are good starting points. You'll find he always has an interesting take on the races and on life. Lately, he's written 2 books outside of the racing and gambling sphere. Old Man on a Green Bike, about his bicycling lifestyle and his bicycling adventures over the past 20 years since moving to Paris. He's also written, I think this is his most recent book, Urban Everesting. And you talk about creative thinking. Mark, in this book, has outlined for you how you can climb Mount Everest without actually going to Mount Everest. He looks at 21 cities with a lot of differences in altitude from one part of the city to the other. It's a fascinating book, Urban Everesting, Mark Cramer. Mark, welcome to the Instant Value Handicapping channel and to the Slow Train to the Travers.
Well, great to see you, Roger, and great to be on the slow train.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to slow down the pace of life, and I think you kind of get into that with your recent books, Old Man on a Green Bike and Urban Everesting. You kind of step outside the pace of society, the pace of social media, and experience life in a different way.
Well, first of all, with the Urban Everesting, I like to say that there are 2 cities in that book where you climb to the top of a mountain inside the city. You look down, and you can look down right into a racetrack, into the city's racetrack. And quite a surprise after getting up to the top. That's better than looking into the ocean or looking into a beautiful lake, is looking down into a racetrack. The other thing is that walking, we evolved as upright Homo sapiens, and we're walkers. And walking is a great way to think. So a lot of my ideas for any of my writing, for horse racing, for handicapping, for the race today, the Haskell, come while I'm walking. If I'm just sitting still, my mind doesn't work as well. So next time we do this broadcast, let's try to do it as we're walking.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That's I'd like to give that a shot, and maybe not while we're bicycling. I'm not sure I could avoid crashing, but I could probably do it walking. I know I can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're going to the Jersey Shore. We're going to Monmouth to look at the Haskell, and a big change in racing there is they changed the rules for using the whip. If, as I understand it, jockeys can only use the whip in kind of an emergency circumstance to control a horse. So it sounds like it would kind of have no whipping. And do you think that changes things much?
Well, since you told me that we're going to talk about the subject, I've read a lot, and I get so many different contradictory opinions that I'm just as confused now as I was before. I would say, having spent a lot of time with jockeys on the backside of racetracks, that they should be the ones after the experiment to be able to give an opinion whether it's safe for them. I would hate to put a jockey in danger. Already, it's the third most dangerous profession in the world, being a horse race jockey. So that would be my number one concern. I did check. I started to do research on horses that raced without being whipped. And one that comes to mind is Ruffian, who raced 10 times, 10 victories, all by wide margins, and was only whipped one time in all that career. So at least there's one horse that can do it without a whip. In the end, somebody's going to, if this becomes a trend at other racetracks, somebody's going to start doing research about sires who race without being whipped. Who's the best sires for horses that can win without being whipped?
Yeah, you'll have whipless stats,
Right.
whipless ratings. You know, a couple things that come to mind for me. I haven't really looked into this. I just pretty much heard about it recently. But I know years ago I was reading a profile of Trevor Denman, track announcer for Del Mar and Santa Anita, and he was an advocate of doing away with the whip. And he pointed out that for 2-year-old races in Southern California, they raced without whips. And he made the point that if you don't need a whip for an inexperienced 2-year-old, then you can probably get away without it for older horses. Of course, a lot of 2-year-old races, they're not long races, so I'm not sure how that factors in. The other thing that I thought of immediately was Emerald Downs. For a few years, they had Lafitte Pinkai Jr. come up for one day to ride horses up there. He rode 28 races at Emerald Downs over 3 or 4 years of going up there. He had 15 wins, and I think I attended every day that he was up there, and it was a treat to watch because Lafitte almost every race would come down the stretch, and you saw his powerful arms and his perfect stillness in moving with the horse. And that guy didn't need a whip to outride the jockeys up at Emerald. So I kind of suspect or would hope that jockeys with great technique are going to kind of rise to the top, and the guys who kind of had sloppy technique and relied on the whip might not be quite as successful in the future. That's just one possibility.
Well, I've experimented with all of these controversial things on my own human body. For example, I once gave myself Lasix to see if I would run faster. So running on a cross-country team, I could never win a race. I never won a race. I was running and losing all these races. So I told the coach, what if you'd whip me and see if I can win that way? And he didn't like the idea. So that's one thing I could experiment on my own body with. But, you know, it's so easy to manipulate research. I just read a study from Australia that supposedly proved that horses did not improve their speed when being whipped. But the way they did the study, it was at the end of the race when maybe they didn't improve their speed, but they didn't slow down by being whipped. So there's so many ways of interpreting this. It really is a crazy subject, and I'm waiting to get all of the jockeys' opinions on it.
Yeah, and I think that I agree with you there totally, that's the source that they should rely most on, both jockeys and I guess, you know, injury rates or accident rates compared to the old standard. So with that said, what do you think of the Haskell? I actually thought it would be a little more competitive. As far as who would show up, we've got Hot Rod Charlie as the 6-5 favorite there, and I don't see all that much behind him.
Well, as usual, I try to look for something to beat a 6-5 horse with. I spent a lot of time looking on the one horse following C. only because I said, well, this horse won by big margins, and it really is the ghost of Bob Baffert in this race, because he was once trained by Baffert. So I said, wow, I don't want to be betting against the ghost of Bob Baffert. But it turns out that both the sire and the dam never won a race beyond the sprint distance. So I just find it hard to imagine, even if this horse is so fast, that he's going to last for the entire distance.
Yeah,
So,
and he's doing it in a not only is it a tough scenario, making your first 2-turn race in a Grade 1 stakes race, but Hot Rod Charlie, one thing, John White of the Daily Racing Forum, I heard an interview with him recently, and he pointed out that in the Belmont Stakes, Hot Rod Charlie ran, I think it was the fastest opening quarter ever for the Belmont Stakes. I'm not sure whether it was two furlongs or 4 furlongs, but needless to say, tremendously fast for the opening. And he ran his final quarter faster than Secretariat ran his final quarter in the Belmont. Wow. So to challenge that type of talent first time around 2 turns, it really seems like an insurmountable challenge to me regarding Pletcher's horse in the 1 hole there.
Yeah. Well, I looked hard at the 3-horse Mandaloon, and, trying to rationalize Brad Cox has a flat bet profit in stakes races, which is not the case for Hot Rod Charlie's trainer. And Mandaloon also had a prep over the track, which I presume he wasn't using the whip. It was an inferior field, but that prep race may give him a slight edge. But as you know, I've always been a fan of Hot Rod Charlie, and so I can't bet him at 6-5, but it's very hard for me to bet against him as well.
Yeah, and me too. It's funny though, when you begin to think about it, I'm also a big fan of Hot Rod Charlie. He was my top pick for the Derby. I think the early trouble there entering the first turn and hurt his chances. And then in the Belmont, he came up just short. And so as I begin to say these things, it's like, well, I really like this horse, but he's only 2 for 9 lifetime. He seems to maybe be looking like a horse who finds ways to lose. And although I can't see him losing here, maybe that's the case to be made against him, is he's not exactly piling up the wins here in these 3-year-old stakes races.
Yeah, and then a lot of the other horses in this field just have not faced anywhere near the level of competition as Hot Rod Charlie has, with the exception of Midnight Bourbon. I don't know what you think about him. I have trouble betting a horse that he was second in the Preakness, but that was a pretty poor field. And in all the other races you look at, except for one, he's been a cut below this level of horse. So he's a good runner. Reminds me of my cross-country career, never winning races, but he actually won. He's capable of winning, so can't throw him out.
Yeah, but my cross-country career, I think can be summarized in I was great in morning workouts. Didn't necessarily carry that to race day. But yeah, Mandaloon, is working very well, as he did before the Kentucky Derby, where he ran second. So if I were to take a shot against Hot Rod Charlie, it would probably be Mandaloon. But instead, I've been digging further, and the pick 6 kind of has piqued my interest here. Not because it's called the Jersey Shore pick 6. That sounds fun, doesn't it? But the first leg of that is the Monmouth Cup Grade 3 stakes race at 1 1/8 miles. And I was looking at Todd Pletcher's horse there. He's got Rosario up. He's 3 for 6 with Rosario riding his horses. drops out of a grade 1 race back into a grade 3, which is more appropriate level. Everything looks good, but he's 5-2 morning line. I don't like to key a horse in exotics under, say, 6-1 or so. Always disappointed with the price I get when I do that. So it made me start looking a little further into that race. And the 6-horse American Dubai, 15-1 morning line. His 2 races ago, he ran at Oaklawn at 1 1/8. He won by 7 lengths, and the horse he defeated is the 7-horse in the Monmouth Cup, Bankit, who is 4-1 morning line. So just look at that. You've got 4-1 on a horse who has defeated 7 lengths by the 15-1 shot lining up next to him. That's a value if the race were just between those two. So if you kind of look a little further and say, can this horse beat the rest of the horses in the race? He's 3 for 9 at the distance. As far as raw times go, he has the second fastest raw time showing for 1 1/8. So he's definitely, as far as I can see, in the mix and competitive at this level. And 15-1 morning line sounds like a good horse to start pick 6 or pick 3 key there. Looks like value to me. So I think that's my value play for the day there at Monmouth.
Well, Roger, I'll bet blindly on your horses. So far, you've been doing pretty good with the eliminating the favorites and finding 2 horses to bet against a false favorite. So I'll go along with you.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, the instant value handicapping series that we've been doing on YouTube has been doing well. We just did our 20-week review, Mark, on that. And we started out at Gulfstream the first 7 weeks, and we did a good job at identifying false favorites. 78% of them lost. So instead of the favorite defeating us 36% of the time, it was only 22%. We've improved on that. But after those 7 weeks at Gulfstream, we were down. We had a negative ROI of like 28%, 30% because I wasn't picking winners against those false favorites. Once we moved to Louisiana, though, picked up, we've eliminated most of that deficit, mostly at Evangeline Downs and the fairgrounds. So it's all moving in the right direction, working as it should now. So yeah, that's our series we put out every Wednesday. We put out our picks at Evangeline. We'll add Emerald Downs now going forward. So, but the big races, those are the ones that are fun to hit, especially if you're upsetting the favorite. Here in the Haskell, I can't really make a strong case against Hot Rod Charlie here. So that would be my pick for the Haskell with Mandaloon as my second choice.
Yeah, that's too bad that we can't come up with something bizarre in this race, but I just don't see it.
Yeah. So, hey, okay, I have a weird thought, totally off the racing spectrum. I was eating dinner last night, and I was thinking about all the different places you've lived, and I was having calamari, and I was thinking, I wonder if there's something in history where the French and the Italians have this rivalry going to see who could eat the weirdest food. So the Italians are eating squid and octopus, and the French are eating snails, and how did that evolve? It almost seems like they were competing with each other to see, I can take this and make it taste good, trying to outdo each other.
Yeah, well, there's also a competition between the French and the Italians for their beautiful ruins, Colosseums. And what we discovered is that they have Colosseums in the south of France, Roman Colosseums, where they're still using them for events, whereas the Colosseum in Rome is unusable. It's only for visiting and and just gawking at. So the Roman ruins in France are doing pretty well versus the Roman ruins in Italy.
That's pretty good. And some of them are they used for racetracks? I know like there are old castle grounds that have racetracks on them in southern France. Are any of those ruins being used in the racing industry? No.
The only unusual place for racing, the most unusual place is they race them in the snow at St. Moritz in Switzerland, and they have a race meet that's in the snow. And if you like high mountains and cold weather, I recommend it.
That sounds great. Yeah, and it's we were talking off screen earlier about kind of saving racetracks in the United States, and so many of them, are on beautiful grounds and or nice places to visit. And there's still many remaining, and it would be nice if there were more of an effort to save them. I know Emerald Downs, just south of Seattle, is one of those places. You sit in the grandstand and look out at Mount Rainier. It's a beautiful setting. They built the track with race players in mind. That the guy who built it, Ron Crockett, was a handicapper, and so was his mother. So he really designed it well. They've got a beautiful walking ring and all that. But the track, I don't think, has made money for a while, and it is the local Indian tribe that has kept it going with their financial support from their casinos. You were mentioning that tracks should work towards running a train onto their grounds and transporting people in by train.
Yeah, well, I have a proposal. I mean, you and I, we should start a lobbying group for a new infrastructure bill. Forget about the infrastructure bills on both parties. We can have our own infrastructure bill. Part one would be to save racetracks from being eliminated, like Hollywood Park. We missed that one; it's gone. And the other one would be to have trains built to racetracks. In other words, what a great infrastructure. Just have a train system where trains go from every city to racetracks, and you get people attending the races in person, like Charles Bukowski, who used to take the train to Del Mar. Now, that would be my infrastructure bill, my new idea that I got yesterday while I was taking a long walk.
Yeah, all we need is a few $1 million to go to Washington and lobby some senators. So that Bukowski piece that you mentioned, that's a poem, right?
Well, Bukowski has a lot of great racetrack poetry and short stories and within his novels. This poem is interesting because it shows what it was like for those of you who have gone to the track and had to take a bus or a train, and the feeling of anticipation and how it puts you in a positive spirit no matter what. He's on the train to Del Mar, and I'm just going to read a very short portion of this. And everything is going wrong for him, and yet his whole attitude improves because he knows he's going to Del Mar and he's going there by train. So in the middle of the poem, it says, and the sun crashes into the bar car like a bull, and the bartender sees that I am feeling good. He smiles a real smile and asks, how's it going? How's it going? My heels are down, my shoes cracked. I am wearing my father's pants, and he died 10 years ago. I need 8 teeth pulled. My intestine has a partial blockage. I puff on a dime cigar. Great, I answer him. How are you making? Shows you that restoring trains to racetracks can, no matter how down and out we are, it can give us a new lease on life.
Absolutely. Yeah. It reminds me, I used to take the MBTA in Boston to Suffolk Downs, another vanished racetrack. But the MBTA had, I mean, they have their own tracks. They don't share it with industrial railroads or anything, but they always manage to kind of mess things up. It's kind of the antithesis of the train system in Europe. I'd take the train to commute to work, and it would just like stop for in the middle, in between stops. It would just stop for like 15 minutes, and people are on their way to work and they're all stressed out. It's like, well, why are they stopping? Why can't they go? It's like same trains run every day on the same tracks. Why all of a sudden do they have to stop for 15 minutes and pause? But in those situations, going to work, all stressed out about the stop. When I took the train to Suffolk Downs, it would do that. I'd be like, oh, great, I have more time to read the form. And it'd be like the completely opposite feeling, like, oh, isn't this fun? You know, the train stopped, don't know when it's going to go again. I've got my racing form here. Let's just chill out and dream about the scores ahead. So,
well, remember Arlo Guthrie's song, The City of New Orleans, the train they call the City of New Orleans. I used to take that train. I commuted actually from Chicago to Urbana on Mondays and back. And that happened to us one time. The train stopped. Nobody in the middle of somewhere near Kankakee and the middle of the cornfields. Nobody told us anything. No announcement from the conductor. We're just sitting there for a couple of hours. And I was thinking, Arlo Guthrie forgot to put this chapter in his song. But really, trains to racetracks do well. And also, you know, you could do buses at the risk of revealing my age. Of course, I admit my age, an old man on a green bike. But in New York, when they didn't have winter racing, I would take a bus to Bowie, Maryland, another vanished racetrack. So what can I say? I have this feeling like we got to bring back going to the racetrack. And if you make it easy for people with good trains and good buses, then we can restore at the track, the joy of being at the track. Walking around by the rail is when you make the best decisions. And so let's all become railbirds again.
Yeah, amen to that, Mark. And that's, I think, a good spot to leave this at. Thank you for kind of clicking in and joining us on this look at the races and racing in general. It's been, again, a pleasure to speak with you. And good luck if you're betting on Saturday.
Well, sorry I did not come up with a long shot here. It's so easy to become a bum when you're handicapping races, and we'll have to look for a better price next time.
Yeah, I think we'll probably do this again for the Jim Dandy, which is July 28th, and might be a larger field and more possibilities. You won't want to miss our take on the Jim Dandy Stakes at Saratoga later in the month. So hit like, hit subscribe. We'll get Mark Cramer back on to look at Saratoga races in a couple of weeks. And you can find Mark's books on Amazon.com. You can buy copies of The Punter's Tale at lazybettorusa.com. No postage if you live in the United States. You can get a print copy of that. Ebooks are available on Amazon and your favorite bookseller, Barnes & Noble. Thank you for watching, and catch us again next time.